come through at that level before. So that was the biggest shift in the arriving here.
Yeah, absolutely. I could totally relate to that. I grew up on a farm, so when you're in the land, it really can have a tremendous positive impact on you. So that's fantastic. So I like what you did. You left it all behind, and you took this big leap of faith to a brand new place where you knew no one. I can so relate to that because I've been remote working for the last almost a year. And, when I always believe that when you take yourself out of your comfort zone, you have nothing in the physical realm materialistically to attach yourself to for comfort. So you have to connect to your heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when we're in something that we have either grown up in or a culture, like an identity we've created, we don't then get to feel beyond that. And so when you move yourself somewhere else, all of a sudden it's like, okay, anything's up for grabs. You get to connect into being the creator and not having those boundaries that's preventing you from accessing, hey, how do I want to create myself?
Yeah, it's like leaving behind a past paradigm that has energetic ties to you.
Absolutely.
What drove that decision?
So I literally just started hearing things. For me, I say that it's like spirit or my true self, intuition. I think we use all those wordings, but it's the same energy that you're tapping into. I just started hearing the word Byron, and I was like, okay, I think I need to pay attention to this. And then I had this incredible setup where, for like maybe 6 months, I had been manifesting a cabin in the mountains. I've been like, I just want to be in a cabin in the mountains, and that was something I thought was going to happen years in advance. And the next piece that came in was a client I was working with. She had a background in real estate, and for a whole bunch of reasons, I thought it was going to be difficult for me to find a place because I didn't have a rental history for a long time. I needed a furnished place. And anyway, so I just happened to reach out to her and be like, hey, do you have any ideas, or do you know anyone around this area? I know you worked close to there. And as luck would have it, she had a family member who was for the first time renting out their space and didn't care whether I had the rental history or anything like that. And so they sent me some internal pictures of the place. Like I didn't see the land or where I was going to be or anything like that. And as soon as the first picture came through, I was like, oh, that's my home.
There you
like,
go.
I know that's my home. And so the day that I moved, I've literally done no research on the area. I've put the address into maps and just driven here. And as I'm, getting like, hey, I'm half an hour from my home, I'm 15 minutes from my home, and I'm starting to go like, oh, this is where I live. Like I just had no idea what I was moving into. And of course I get here and it's full mountain views and space that's my cabin. Like it's not exactly what I pictured, but I've manifested it in alignment with that and just followed those intuition pieces and those downloads to just take each step until it all unraveled for me. And it's been incredible. Nice. I just love it. Yeah.
So how far are you from the nearest town?
So the closest one's 20 minutes away. Byron itself is 40 minutes, but I tend to go there a lot. Just I love the energy in Byron itself, so I gravitate towards there more.
Oh, that's exciting. So you're basically, walking your talk.
Absolutely. And it's, it's interesting with manifestation because this is a big topic that I work with, how, sometimes I'm speaking about it and I'm like, hang on, what have I manifested lately? And then it hits me and I'm like, this was my cabin. This was the one that I was working on. And, for me, I see that manifestation is actually you coming into co-creating with the universe. And so it's sometimes, well, a lot of the time it's the little pieces and it's the little guidance every day and that being in connection with that guidance rather than always looking for the big thing in front and have I got this. And so, every part of my life, there's movement in anything I'm wanting to work on. There's little pieces and guidance coming in continuously. And once I have shifted into that way of living, I'm like, I wouldn't do it any other way. Like imagine if I hadn't gone with the guidance, I would have ended up at the Sunshine Coast and a whole bunch of rental applications that were dead ends and stuff. And instead I'm like, surrender into it and everything will just be delivered to you. And delivered at a higher level than what you would have got if you created it yourself.
Yeah, it's really powerful what you're saying. I think that, well, I know that when I first got into coaching, I was taught in the very beginning, which I outlearned, thank gosh, was that we needed to be like super structured and kind of over controlled on our goals, our goal setting, you know, our action items. Like it was very much in the linear mind kind of realm, and there wasn't a whole lot on the intuitive side or the energetic side or being guided. That piece was never taught. And what was interesting for me going through that process is I always led with intuition and inner guidance, and now I'm learning this other way that's a complete polar opposite. And there was no training or teachings for integrating that. So I was kind of working against myself for the first part of my coaching career, and then it just felt wrong, you know. It just felt like angst in my stomach.
Totally get that. I remember when I first went to enroll in my program where I did get my coaching certificate, and a lady who was intuitively coaching me at the time, she was like, "What are you doing? You already get it. Like, why would you go and learn the world's way?" And, you know, I thought I needed to have the certificate. I thought it wasn't enough in what I was doing. And, you know, while that training was incredible and I got a lot out of it, I basically went right back into intuition and spirit and coach from that place. But it's, you know, it's so normal in our world because it's an ego-based world by default, that we think we need to do those activities. We think we need to do goals and hustle and all of this stuff that's force energy that actually isn't what our soul needs. You know,
100%. 100%. In fact, it can really throw you off your path, like the reason you're here.
Oh, absolutely. I know I'm working with one lady at the moment, and she's still discovering who she authentically is. And in her role, she does like social media marketing. And so has been just thrashing herself, like going, I need to show up, and doing this like force hustle energy that's being taught to her. And I was like, what would it be to pause for a month? Like just to pause and go inwards and think about who you really want to be and think about how you really want to show up. And, you know, that's not the norm. We're not given that space. It's like, okay, if you're not being active, you're not moving fast enough, or you just need to push through it. I'm like, no, you need to be led through. And that comes from going inwards, connecting with yourself, and then going, okay, now from the expression of my authentic self, then I can show up. Then I know what move to make. Then I know what I want to create. And, you know, I think if we miss that piece, we're actually traumatizing ourselves, right?
Yes.
Like that. Yeah. How does someone continue to show up when, like, energetically, if you're not presenting your authentic self, then you are actually repelling people, whether they understand why or not they're repelling. And then,
I was just going to say, you know, first of all, I can relate to that because that was my early journey. And then I have a comment. So, you know, programming as a child, 0 to 7, 7 to 14, are such critical years because it's where our psychology is shaped and formatted based on the people that are programming us, the environment that's programming us. And I just want to say, because there's a lot of people that are traumatized now in this world, as I want to get into with you. So what that does, if you as a parent insist and persist on projecting your limitations onto your child, what it does is that, especially if you traumatize them with any kind of abuse, neglect, abandonment, sexual abuse, gaslighting. What that does is it throws the child into a spin cycle, and they actually end up creating a false identity because it's survival mode. So I get what you're talking about, because I remember early on going through this stage where I was like, wow, I am so not who I've been programmed to be. And I had to like allow it to unfold so I could get in touch with my authentic self. And it was liberating. I was weeping a lot. It was a purge, like it was cathartic. And as a result of that, then my life began to really become what I wanted it to be, not what generations before me and my circle of influence wanted for me. It was just amazing. So what are you seeing with people that are stuck in that linear, logical, this is the way I have to do it because this is what everybody else does, or this is what is expected of me, or this is what's going to get me accepted or validated? What are you seeing for people to break free from that and release themselves?
I mean, first of all, just giving themselves permission to see things a different way, right? Like to be, I'm safe if I'm not part of the tribe is the biggest thing. We're all at our core so terrified that if we are different to the people around us, that we will actually not be accepted by the tribe, and super unconsciously, even it's we believe that equals death. It's in our DNA to take it that far. And so, and even if you think about it, like when someone's first born, if the parent, like the baby is still aware that if the parent doesn't love me, I will die. Like if you don't see me as cute, if you don't accept me, I won't get fed, I won't get looked after, and I will cease to exist. And so until we recognize that, hey, I'm actually safe on my own, there's this absolute block to looking and being different to other people, right?
Yeah.
And, being your most powerful, freest self is to be able to stand up in front of a crowd completely different to them and be unfazed by it. So permission to go into that journey, to actually be okay with being different. And, the thing here is, I think, all humans have to go through this. You listing certain things that happen in childhood, but I'm like, the vibration of humanity is at such a state that everyone is not living at their authentic self to some degree, right? Until we get to what I refer to in the map of consciousness as the vibration of 1,000, we're not there. There's still work to do. And so recognizing that we're all going through that journey and just going, you know what, I'm going to be okay to walk it. Even if the people aren't around me, I'm just going to start working through that so that I can come into my authentic self, because what else could possibly matter?
Yeah, absolutely. And, as we go the journey and we go the distance with ourselves, it creates an energy, and, eventually we hit that tipping point where the majority is on board. It just is, it's a process. And for those of us in the early stages of that, it's a lot, it's a lot of heavy lifting. I know for myself and my clients, it's not just been for themselves that they've done this work where the benefit is, but it's also been multi-generational in their family, where it's like literally healed generations into the past.
Yeah.
And that's powerful.
Yeah. I mean, we are the generation who are doing that. We are the people who are cutting those ancestral things from coming down the line, and it's hard work. We're in that time of being the people who need to really turn this around. And thank goodness there is a lot of progress happening. There is a lot of people waking up and a lot of people doing the work to come through there. And at the same time, in that duality, then we've got a lot of people who are really scared because it's so foreign to them and they don't know how to go into that. And so And so because there's so much fear activated, I find, we can get really caught up with like, oh my gosh, this is taking so much. There's so much to do. However, on the same side, there is so much activity in the positive happening. and so much freedom coming through that I think it's a really exciting time to be alive.
It really is. And what's interesting too is on top of all of that, we've received a lot of mass programming over the last few years to, if we don't subscribe to groupthink, then we're the bad one, we're the problem. And so to still be that pioneer that holds true to themselves and stays on that hero's journey is even like, it's so brave. So anyone that's doing this, you know, you're super brave and you're super courageous, and you know, God bless you, because it's not an easy journey when there's so much energy stacked against that very thing we're talking about.
Yeah, so full honor to anyone doing it, because yeah, it is a lot to come through, and we need you to. So absolutely, full love for that.
What are some things that you could share? I mean, you don't have to give away all your secret sauce, but for people that are on this journey and they're really, you know, they're dealing with everything that's involved with all that, like feeling alone, feeling like they don't relate to people or people don't relate to them. There can be serious, you know, that saying, there's loneliness at the top. There can be some serious loneliness. Like, what do you suggest people do to nurture themselves? I think that's the key. It's not even just staying the course. It's nurturing yourself so you can stay the course.
Mm-hmm. Definitely right. You know, doing your spiritual practices, whatever feels in alignment for you with that, whether that's, you know, meditation or journaling or, you know, being in nature, anything that's going to actually connect you back to your spirit and give you access to guidance so that you can feel comfortable in the process is number one. Number two is to find your tribe, right? Like what I'm
say
saying,
the last part again. To what?
to find your tribe.
So yeah.
As you, what I refer to as raising your vibration, and like as you're moving up the map more, you will absolutely drop people, and that's actually something it's a sign that you're doing well. You know, in the beginning I was like, oh my gosh, I'm losing so many friends, and like, what's wrong with me kind of questions. And now I'm like, oh, I get, we just weren't a vibrational match anymore, and that's okay. But there is people who you can access, right? If you get into, you know, there's circles out there. For example, we've just started a circle under Supreme Splendor for this very reason, so that you can connect with people who are doing the journey and get what you're going through and will be supportive rather than tear you down on it. And that's a vital piece. You know, we still need connection. We just need the right connection.
Yes, we do. You said something, and I would say, rather than find your tribe, let your tribe find you.
Mm.
You know, it's so this, you know, I want to just lay this out for people watching that think that this is a one-time deal. You only do this once in your life and then you're free. And it's like, no, this is an ongoing process of discovering deeper and deeper realms of yourself that you've been disconnected from for whatever reason, you know. And so that leveling up process is ongoing. And every stage of the way, whoever's been surrounding you always has the option to grow with you or to fall off, really.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, you know, there's always a chance they'll come back around, right? Like there's always a chance that they don't grow at the same time. So I've seen that happen so many times when people are, you know, not quite matching, the next thing you're bumping into them or reconnecting in some way, and they can come back through. I guess for me, it's like, just never be responsible for anyone else. Like I see so many people exhausting themselves, trying to bring people with them. And I'm like, if there's no opening, don't put your energy there. Like if they're not asking, then it's not their time, and it actually repels a person. Whereas if we just be ourselves and be the light as best as we possibly can, there's a chance that they'll come along and go,
Sure. Yeah, when the energy's cohesive, right?
Hmm.
I remember when I first started coaching, I was dating someone, and I've always subscribed to this thought about people shifting in and out of our lives based on just the energy of it. And he actually criticized me for that. And he's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "Well, explain this to me. What makes it wrong?" Here we go with the rightness and the wrongness of existence. And he said, "Well, I'm still friends with the same people I went to grade school with." And my thought was, well, that should be a red flag. you know,
You don't
if
want
none of you
anyone
guys grown, I know, I know. I'm like, okay, I get it. Maybe we're not vibing after all. But yeah, I mean, it's having that awareness to understand that there's an energy flow to things or not, and that doesn't make it good or bad. It just is what it is, and you have to calibrate off of what that feedback mechanism is so that you understand what you're experiencing, so you're not like, hair on fire. Oh my God. I saw this one meme where it said, what most people think a spiritual awakening is, and it shows this woman in a lotus pose meditating.
no.
And then this picture below it shows this crazy woman with her hair just like nuts, and she's like freaking out, and her makeup's crooked. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of more what it's like.
That's more often than not. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So, what can people expect from this journey of theirs? I mean, I think, look, every time I've gone through a next level process of awareness with myself and increasing my consciousness, I'm like, oh, okay, this is it. And I've graduated. And then it's like, no, you haven't.
Yeah.
And so, what can we do, or how can people observe themselves? That may be a better question. How can people observe themselves to be aware of what they're experiencing, so they're not feeling like their world is crashing down around them?
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually just speaking into this on Instagram today about how, in school we go through tests so that we can go to the next grade, right? And your spiritual journey is the same way. You have lessons and you will be stretched and tested, and then once you pass them, then you go up to the next level. And when you go up to the next level, there is that ease where you go, oh, I've made it, like finally. But I mean, really, we've just made it through the last test, right? And you come up in vibration. I really love using the map of consciousness because it gives us a way of putting that number to it and being able to go, okay, so this is where I'm at now, and I still have all of these other layers to move through. And when we can see that and understand the process, it's like, okay, I'm going to get a bit of rest here. I'm going to enjoy the view from this level, but I'm also going to be prepared that there's another one coming, and
another one, and another
and
one.
another, and to not resist that, right? Like the more that we surrender into it, and the more that we're grateful for the process and understand that, we are here to grow. We are not here to learn the one thing or do the one course or read the one book and have a breakthrough. It's a continuous growth process. And when we make peace with that being what life is and we don't resist it, we move through it faster and we enjoy it a hell of a lot more.
See, I'm gonna reframe some of this because this is a new level of awareness that I have on this. I don't subscribe to the concept of tests and lessons, and that would imply that there's something outside of us that is in charge and is putting us through hoops to see what we'll do with it and how far we'll go, which is not what God is or the universe is. And so I know that those are very common buzzwords in the industry world these days. The word I like to use instead is awareness. So we expand our awareness, and there isn't a test to see if we've made it, but rather there's an opportunity for us to see how long and how consistently we can hold our awareness in that alignment, to stay aligned energetically with our new awareness. How long can we hold that? And, the longer we can hold it, the more it becomes the new pattern. And, as we adjust to the new pattern and we begin to own it, which means living it without effort, then the new growth presents itself. So it's just, it's another way of explaining it to help people realize that there's nothing out there that's, looking to test you or make you struggle. I saw another meme today on Facebook about this, about how it said, God puts you, if people in your life aren't honoring you, God will keep them there so they can watch you succeed, and that will cause them to grow. And I'm like, who comes up with this stuff about external authority figure that's outside of us determining what we should experience and what we shouldn't? I mean, the true meaning of consciousness is that you create your own reality. And the question is, how much are you aligning with the new reality you're creating so you can sustain it?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that way. I use a lot of metaphors to help people perceive what's going on, but I absolutely agree with what you're talking about there about, everything is coming from us. There's no external God to call something in and Satan who's keeping it away from me. It's all what's going on within you and your energetic field, and how you're actually, aligning to what you want to bring in. We manifest life at the vibration that we're at. And so if there's a blockage, it's something in our vibration to shift through so that we can bring in what we want. It's not a lesson we've been assigned to, or a punishment that we've earned, or, something coming up against us.
It's
us shifting into that new,
that new vibration. Can you hear the train going by? Oh my God. I kind of love it, but I'm trying to figure out the train schedule to avoid this happening. And there isn't one. It just comes by whenever it feels like it. So one thing I've noticed with this growth patterning or growth spurts, whatever we want to call them, increasing consciousness is, and this was an experience I had with a few clients I was working with in the mortgage industry, where they would have these like low points, and then they'd have high points and then low points. They were like a zigzag. And so I explained this to them. I said, when you have the low point and you work through some limiting beliefs, for example, and you start to hit higher points, that's the sign for you to hold on to the new thinking, not let your mind go back and entertain those old limiting beliefs. Because when you do, then it just like pulls you back down. And I've seen a lot of people experience that, where they're like, I thought I've already been through this. And it's like, well, you did, but did you hold the vibration at the new level of awareness, or have you been lazy in your thinking? A lot of it's just about lazy thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I see it as when we make a declaration that we're going to grow, like when we start looking for that, it's a beautiful part of the process where the fears that are actually needing to go get stimulated in our life. Like they
well said.
And people generally, I know when I start doing coaching programs, they're like, oh, I said I was going to do this, and then this and this all came up, and I was like, perfect. Because that's your energy showing you what needs to be like let go of so that you can come through. It's not a denial, it's the process in action.
Yeah,
and
100%.
So I mean, I think while it might be zigzagging, it's also going up, right? Like every time
ideally
up. If we're letting them go.
If they're making any headway at all, right? That's great. This is fantastic. What is it that how do you engage with people? Are you one-on-one? Are they going through online programs? What's your platform look like?
Yeah, so at Splendor, we have multiple offerings. So I basically create programs that all have different needs and different aspects that people want to bring into their life. However, my undercurrent behind all of it is taking people on that journey from fear to love. So in one of my programs, we're looking at how to help people release weight. And for example,
Mm.
the common thing is like, okay, I've got a physical problem, I need to solve it in the physical. You don't need to solve it in the physical. You need to solve it in
No.
the mental, spiritual, and get your vibration into alignment that you want to nurture and nourish yourself. And when you come into that, then the weight will release. And so, that's one aspect that we bring people into this higher way of living through one area that they need supporting.
Okay, so hold that thought for a second, because I want to get into that a little bit deeper with you. So, I don't know what Australia's statistics are like, but in America, I mean, the stats change every day, but somewhere between 40 and 50% of Americans are obese. And a lot of that is a responsibility of the food industry and what they've done to our food supply in the name of money and gain and control. Yet there's also an amount of that, or a portion of that is trauma based. When you consider um, what trauma people have been through in mass. So, you can, for instance, let's say, and this also holds true for disease, like really serious disease in the body. And so, you can look at a family, and the comment might be, or the diagnosis might be, well, obesity runs in your family, so it's really what you can expect to have to battle. It's like, my thought is, it's not that the obesity runs in the family, it's that the trauma patterns run in the family. And so there's that to it. And then the same thing with disease. It's like, well, all diseases are genetic, and if they run in your family, you're predisposed, and you can expect to get it. It's like, what if it's not anything to do with the symptom of disease, and it's everything to do with the paradigm of the family, which is the beliefs, the angers, the resentments, like the negative emotions, just the way they relate to themselves, the lack of self-love. Like, how much trauma does that do to the mitochondria? It's massive.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I think disease is a energetic level. It's a spiritual thing that's going on. It's nothing that we need to accept in our lives. And the more that we believe in it, and the more that we buy into stories of like, oh, it runs in my family, the more we create it and continue it down the line. So yeah, I would have to say, in the kidneys program, we see a significant amount of trauma that has come through in a variety.
Sure.
And people, first of all, when they haven't processed their emotions, they're turning to food as one source to do it. Some people turn to alcohol, some turn to drugs, some turn to sex or gambling, or even gaming is another way of dealing with
video games.
Yeah, I find it's like we've got the top ones, and we're missing how many strategies people actually have for numbing out. And so, yeah, food is just another way of numbing your emotions that you're not ready to deal with, or trying to fulfill the emotions that you're wanting that you're craving for. And so, unwinding that is one piece. Unwinding the culture that you've witnessed. So many behaviors we're doing on autopilot. And I'll bring up a question with people like, well, how do you choose your portion sizes? And they're like, oh, but that's how much you put on the plate. And I'm like, well, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And it's always been like, okay, well, that's just what I've witnessed. And so we're witnessing things, we're passing down energetics, we're having our own individual traumas. Like, it's multi-layered how to actually release weight, which is why it's hilarious to me when people go to diet and exercise, because I'm like, you're not going to solve it.
And how much our choices around food has changed with awareness and education. I was watching a video on the weekend, and I was thinking, actually, it was a physician, it was an MD talking about the corruptness of the medical industry. And I'm like, wow, all this stuff is just coming out and people are just talking about it like they've never talked about it in the past. And it's just a massive change, say, compared to what it was when I was a kid. Obviously, food was healthier then, and we were farmers, so we made our own. But, every meal had, a glass of milk. It had white bread on the table, and you'd have a slice of bread with your meal. And the portions were big. Now, understandably, we worked outside, hardcore labor all day long. But when you leave that environment, say for the city and a desk job, all that's got to change because you're just not metabolically as efficient. And this is the thing that you're right. Portion size, why am I even eating this food? Like, and I said this to a client that really wanted to quit drinking. Ran a construction company, and he was one of the founders, and he's like, I really want to quit drinking, even if it's just, I limit my alcohol consumption to a beer or two on the weekend. I want to quit these luncheons where I have a couple beer, or after work, I have a beer before I go home, because it all adds up, And he was putting a belly on. He was growing himself a nice belly. And he wasn't happy with that. He was a young guy, typically very fit. And I said, well, if you considered asking yourself what the trigger is, like what the stress trigger is, that makes you want to have those 2 beer with your lunch when you really don't need them.
Yeah. So, and then once you know what the trigger is, then deal with the emotion that's present for that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what's the real emotion here, and how can I process that?
Yeah. And make a different choice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not that if we just stopping the alcohol or we're stopping the food, we're white knuckling, and that will only last for so long, right? Like, it's got to be an absolute internal shift where the desire to do something unhealthy isn't there anymore, because there's so much love for yourself that you're like, I just want to nurture and nourish my body, and also so much awareness of like, why have I gone into these tactics before? And so, now that I know what I want and I'm set on what I want, I just won't align to any of those.
Yeah. Well done. I love what you're doing, and I think it's a tremendous contribution to humanity. I hope that your business just thrives and takes off and becomes massive, because people really need what you're offering. Thank you for being here today. Share your URL with me.
Yeah, so our website is Reveal Your Splendor. Splendor is .com, and you can go to the offerings there. We've got 5 different offerings that are, like I said, caring for a different variety of avenues for your life. And we have a special deal that I'm going to be sharing with Deborah later that will go up in your write-up, or where will they go up?
Yeah, they'll go all of your information will go in the show notes, so they can follow all your social media and find your website and get your offer. If you send the direct link to my publicist, she'll make sure that it gets added in there for you, for sure.
Amazing. Yeah, we've got a special deal for anyone who's looking at working on releasing weight and really coming into that health and healing that they want. So check it out on Deborah's website.
I like how you language that, releasing the weight. So a release is freedom.
Yes. Well, see, people say lose weight, and when you lose something, you want to find it again. Yeah. Right. But when you release it, you're letting it go. And so we use it for the final, but we also use it for the understanding that you're releasing the emotions to create the weight release. Yeah. And so, the whole language is changed in that. So no diets, no lose. That's just not our language at all.
Thank the Lord. That's awesome. Thank you for being here. Make sure you stick around after the show, Bethany, and we'll have a quick chat. Just kind of catch up on some other things. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. I really, truly hope that the content that I'm bringing you is making a difference in your life, even if it's just like one little thing that sparks your awareness to get into a higher level of attracting and allowing and receiving then it's working. And I would love to hear all about that. If you would just please drop a comment and definitely hit the subscribe button, like and share. This show is on all the major podcast platforms. We broadcast live on Tuesdays at 12 noon Pacific and 3 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So make sure you follow me there. And then my team puts the recordings up on every major podcast platform, from iTunes to Spotify and SoundCloud and Rumble. We're everywhere. So wherever your pleasure is, wherever you like to watch podcasts, definitely hit me up there. And I look forward to seeing you guys again real soon. And remember, most importantly in your day and in your life, stay aligned, stay alert, and stay awesome.